just over a week ago, the bank rating agency Moody's Investor Services downgraded the stability rating of South African banks from stable to negative. This downgrade took place in spite of overwhelming evidence that South Africa's banks avoided the global credit crisis because of regulatory mechanisms that prevented irresponsible lending and reckless investment in assets bundled to the US subprime housing market that precipitated the current crisis. Moody's decision to revise our outlook downwardly from stable to negative demonstrates the superficial way in which well-rating agencies tend to conduct their assessments, and at most reveals a broader lack of consensus on what needs to be done to resolve the current wealth crisis. It is just 3 years since the world faced its first major recession since the Great Depression. This recession was unique in that, for the first time, the dominant paradigm of the Washington Consensus that a free market system could self-regulate and self-correct could no longer be sustained. As governments around the world scrambled to find resources to recapitalize their failing banks, it became increasingly clear that unregulated capitalist development and neoliberal approaches to world economics were not the panacea for protecting the world against insatiable self-interest and greed. In essence, the crisis exposed systemic failure in markets and the over-reliance on speculative boom and bust financial instruments within markets under the guise of rational expectations and self-regulation. It exposed the vicious cycle that the capitalist system was caught in. Riding on boom wave in housing markets from the mid-90s, United States banks went beyond the real economy. They entered the realm of fiction by creating a wide range of financial instruments which were overexposed to toxic assets, packaging and bundling these as shares to be sold to unwitting investment banks such as Lehman Brothers. This eventually eroded global savings of many, including the poor and pensioners' investments in the United States market. In such an environment of oversubscribed subprime lending and over-indebtedness, the markets failed to factor in the reality that lowering interest rates would not have significant effects on demand. As it is now a matter of history, lowering of interest rates had no impact on improving demand. People lost their jobs and defaulted on their loans, while the housing market became oversupplied and prices dropped. Our banks were less affected because of measures implemented against the threat posed by over-indebted consumers and unregulated financial markets. We implemented in South Africa the National Credit Act, along with other consumer and financial sector regulations. We were therefore cushioned from being caught in the storm of failing financial markets. This does not, however, imply that South Africa was not adversely affected by the economic downturn which followed the financial crisis. South Africa was severely affected by the decline in international demand and a temporary withdrawal of investment funds. As a result of this and high levels of domestic indebtedness, we lost nearly 1 million jobs during 2009. It is in this context that the government took the bold decision to embark on government-driven investment in infrastructure and to use fiscal interventions to cushion the poor. The government placed job creation and the creation of sustainable livelihoods at the center of our recovery strategy.